All right, good afternoon to some of you. Good morning to others that are on other time zones here. Pleasure to be back with you again on this Tech Tuesday with Activu. Again, my name is Justin Gross. I did the last one with you guys, and hopefully do a couple more as we go forward. Just a couple housekeeping announcements before we get started on today's podcast or webcast here is you've probably already seen some announcements from us. We did introduce our latest platform called Visibility. That email blast went out to, I believe, last week. It is our newest product line. We hope to be releasing out to the wild come later this year, but we are in our 2.0 and plan on doing demonstrations with it in the near future. Further to that, again, with these webcasts, we want to get some more ideas from you guys, the crowd, the users out there, to tell us what really is going to be useful to you to see. Maybe even the littlest feature is fine to cover. We can do a bunch of them in one session if we had to. So again, just simply reply back to any of the invitations you received to today's webcast, and we will take all those into consideration. All right, with that started, I'm going to go ahead and start my screen share here, and we'll get this going. All right, all. Welcome again to our demo room here in Rockaway, New Jersey. We will be going with the camera again like we did last time, so you can see as we manipulate content, we work with this. But to start, I'm going to get rid of this camera shot, and we're just going to focus on our main topic for today, which is the Activu access point, as you see here. So the first step, when you normally log on to the access point for the first time as a user, you would see your A here. Probably land in the upper left-hand corner of your PC or leftmost monitor. And from there, to begin using it, you're going to go ahead and double-click on it. I'm going to briefly cover all the buttons at the top here. There's one thing to mention that depending on your level of permissions, now I am logged in here as administrator, you may or may not have all these buttons available to you. So keep that in mind. And if you only have a smaller one and you see anything of interest, you'll need to speak to your Activu admin to get access to those. All right, so let's get started. Most left button here is what we refer to as scenarios, the 4 dots. By clicking on these, you're going to see a list of any scenarios. Now, what is a scenario? Simply put, a button page for simple controls. Double click anywhere on any of the names to launch these. Again, simple button panel for simple use. These are typically programmed by somebody on the back end, an Activu administrator. And if you have any upgrades or need any changes to this, you could speak to them. Lastly, if you've just inherited an Activu system and you're unaware of how to manipulate these, certainly reach out to us and we can do something to talk to you about that. Further, it's probably not a bad idea to cover these in a future webcast. Just a reminder again, single click here and double click on the word exactly. If in fact you double click on the 3 dots to the right, you will open up the scenario in an edit mode. So keep that in mind. Next on the toolbar is our recording module, which we are unfortunately deprecating at this point in the product line, possibly reevaluating adding it to future product. So I'm going to just jump over that for now. Moving on here to the audio controls. Again, you may have more or less than what I have here. This is what we have configured in our room. Pretty simple to use. Left click on your audio source, double left click on your destination. And you should see your volume come over here to the right-hand side. Up and down slider here for volume controls, muting, and an option to disconnect all your sources. Our collaboration piece here, which I'm not going to jump into any one of these. This is a licensing structure, so not everyone has our collaboration piece. If you don't have the icon, it could be something like a messenger in older versions, like a chat application. But in the latest version here that I'm working with, which is 5.4, you'll have Team Share or Active Share, depending on, again, on your license purchase. I am going to skip over the next one here, which we're going to spend most of our time with in terms of the next topic on the webcast. Next one is remote views. Simply put, these are any one of your endpoints. So any of your displays, very similar to our video wall here, is one of our displays. You can go ahead and remotely view that. So just to give you an idea, I'm going to double click on our control room here, and you can see I have brought the video wall to my desktop. Now, some content doesn't always render through this, so keep that in mind. Again, remote views, anything that is set up as a tab or wall area will be available in the remote views section. The next option here, which is scheduler, this may or not be enabled at this point in time. However, if you're looking for ways to automate your system, meaning if you turn the wall on every morning at a certain time, you turn it off at the end of the day at a certain time, this all can be automated through our scheduler module. It uses Microsoft's task scheduler as the back end, so nothing out of the ordinary. And we do recommend any automation be set up on your system or control managers. If you have any questions about automation, please reach out to us and let us know. Last but not least, on the button here before we go back to remote control is our script editor. Mostly an administrative function. Some of you may or may not have this available to you, but this is kind of the back end of scenarios. So again, scenarios, all these buttons that we covered here, these are all the underpinnings of those buttons, all the different modules and scripts. Now, we have quite a bit here in our demo room, but you can see you can do quite a bit here. And we do code in either VB or C#. So any coders in your organization that want to step up and give this a shot, you're more than welcome to. We do not restrict this in terms of access or licensing. So any one of our customers has this inherently built into the product. And finally, that does cover our toolbar overview. We're going to move into the Activu remote control, which is that last button that I skipped over here, which is the arrow that points to the right. If you do highlight over it, you will see remote control. So I'm going to double click on the A to minimize the toolbar to keep it out of the way for us and go ahead and bring up our remote control. Now, remote control is the full drag and drop UI of the Activu product as it currently stands. And I'm going to kind of navigate you around the whole remote control here so you understand what options you have. Now, every system is going to be a little different. You may or may not have what we call tabs at the top of your remote control here. The tabs are the variety of destinations you may have configured in your system. That could be something that is as easy as our control room here that I showed you the video of. We have lots of different tabs here. So we have even our DC office is configured for connectivity here. And simply just by clicking on it, it will toggle you over to that specific device. And then you can drag and drop here as well. So tabs, all these different areas in your system. Now, tabs can be manipulated. These names can be changed. So if you were given an Activu system, you're not a big fan of the names, that's actually very easily done. And we'll hopefully cover that in a future podcast. But in the short term here, if you look up in your administrative guide, it will give you guidelines on how to manipulate the names of these tabs. Going over to the left here is our Resource Explorer. So this is everything that you want to add. So I guess for the demonstration purposes here, I'm going to switch back to this conference room where we have kind of a blank slate to work with. And here I'm clicking on Resource Explorer. So this is a button at the very top. It always brings you to the top of your tree. So as far as you get buried down into a folder, you can click on Resource Explorer and it will bring you all the way to the top. From here, locate your sources you're looking for. So I'm going to click Sources. I'm going to go to one of our folders here for some content. And I'm going to go ahead and drag it off this Resource Explorer and drop it onto the display wall. You're going to see it show up, and from there, you can move that content around. Continue to add sources the same way, simply dragging, dropping from the Resource Explorer on the left-hand side and manipulating thus after. Any point in time, you can go up one level by clicking on this arrow to go back to your top level structure. Further, keep going up one more, getting access to any layouts or templates and possibly any mobility content servers you have configured. Staying on this side of this remote control here, we're going to explore the search option. So we're going to go ahead and click on search. Type in any searching that you look for. Now, again, Activu does look through a lot of different things when it comes to searching. So if you've configured with descriptions on the back end or anything else, you can go ahead and click on that. Once it's done, you can go down here, look for any search results, and drag and drop. Oop. There you go. All right, again, that's search. Type in there. Search results will be shown at the bottom, and drag and drop. So we've covered the Resource Explorer. I'm now going to move over to this bar across the top of the remote control GUI that you see here. So we have our actions menu. Lots going on here, more than I could cover in this webcast to keep time to use time appropriately. But again, lots that we could cover in there, and hopefully we can dive into possibly again a future webcast where we can cover those. Next over is our view screens. View screens can be dangerous to play with in some cases, all depends on your use case. View screens can also be very useful. View screens are very simple, and just to demonstrate that, I'm going to go over to our control room here. I'm going to bring our camera back into play. And going to go ahead and switch a view screen, and you can take a look at what actually happens here on our camera. So by double clicking, now again, double clicking on the view screen, you'll notice that the wall goes to our default background. And you notice at the bottom here in our active source list, we do have all these grayed out. This would indicate they are running somewhere else. In this case, we know they're on view screen 1. So by double clicking on view screen 1, it brings us back to that last view. With that said, what this allows you to do is populate additional content for your system on another view screen. Nope, I did not double click there, so give me a second. There we go. And I'll go ahead and add another picture to our view screen 2. Double clicking back to view screen 1, you'll notice that the camera does change to the original picture. So that is view screens. And again, the one thing to know about view screens is even when it's not being displayed, it is being processed. So you have to be cognizant of the data you have between one view screen or another. All right, moving along the top here. One thing to keep in mind, you can always right click, and we'll move back here. I'm going to go ahead and maximize back. Go ahead and get rid of this content real quick. You have a right click menu that actually does exist right here in this blank space. And we do have a couple things: adding view screens, renaming, removing, switching, loading default settings, and set our status display. And again, this is status display is actually a troubleshooting tool. We would only ask you to go down there when instructed to do so. If you were to call in with an issue, we could actually ask you to use this. In the time, just know that it's there. So again, that's right-clicking anywhere in this blue bar to the right of the view screens. You'll get all these options you see here. Moving over to the few buttons that we have over here on the right-hand side. The first one is our lock button. What is lock? Well, in an incident, if you have multiple users signed into access point using remote control, you might want to restrict who has access to any one space for control, meaning you really do want to control the content. So by clicking on that, it'll actually ask you, do you want to take exclusive control of the control room? So I'm going to go ahead and click yes. And you'll notice we have this control room 4x2 exclusively controlled by Corey here. So Corey has now taken control, which means any other user that's logged into access point with the remote control open will not be able to manipulate the wall until it is released. Good use case again for this in an event where the control room wall has to be used by a single user. This is a great way to prevent unneeded changes to the video wall. Clicking on it again will release the control, and we'll be back to normal use. Next button over is our layout button, and we did cover that in the last webcast, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about layouts, but that is the Save Layout button. Again, recording, we do have the ability right now, but again, this product is being possibly deprecated, likely deprecated. We are, again, evaluating it for future use, but you can record actually what is going on the video wall. And last but not least here is our preview button. Now this is called start our live preview. So if I click on this, you'll notice that now I can actually see the same content that's being displayed on the camera here that's being displayed up here on the video wall. Now you'll notice it's a little slower and choppier, but you get an idea of what your content looks like while it's actually on the wall. Clicking the button again would stop that preview and return you to this normal mode that we have here. All right, and last but not least, we're going to go down here to the bottom before we move on to the next piece. I'm going to go ahead and back to our LCD here. You have our log, which is the normal view. Actually, let's go back to control room and get a better look at the log at the bottom here. So log, we have all this information that does get generated as you're manipulating content, moving content around. It is also the source of some messages. In fact, if you have a problem, it would show up here. So this is something you want to be aware of if you're ever asked, hey, is there anything that is being displayed in the log window in your remote control? This is exactly what you're being referred to. Moving on is the history. Ever since I've been logged into Access Point, I've been manipulating certain sources. Well, that is kept track of here and can be reused at any point in time. So if I like to, oh, I just took that off the wall, let me go back and find it. Instead of digging through your Resource Explorer for it, you'll find it here in your history. From here, you can drag and drop, place it on the video wall. Search results we did cover. Again, that was generated once we did the search. It will stay there until you either log off and log back in or perform another search, which would change the results viewed here. Again, just a reminder, you can drag and drop from here as well. Last but not least, here at the bottom is tasks. Tasks are exactly what it means, which is any type of automation that's being done, whether this be a layout load or automation through our scheduler, would be listed down here. At any point in time, if something's loading or getting in the way, you will have access to stop it and control it in this menu here. All right, so that does cover our remote control overview. Again, just as a slight review, the tabs at the top are the destinations. On the left-hand side, you have all your content that's available in your Resource Explorer, which can be displayed on your video wall. You can search for that content here. You also have your view screens to change up operational view if you choose to do so. The 4 buttons over here, lock, your layout, and your live preview. And last but not least, again, the tabs down here for your log, history, search results, and any tasks that you have been that are being performed by the system. All right, we're going to go ahead and work on the last module for this webcast here, and that's going to be displaying and manipulating sources. So for that, I'm going to go ahead and clear this view screen. I'm going to bring our camera back into play and demonstrate dragging and dropping out onto the remote GUI. So locate your sources. I'm going to go down to my folder here where I have some canned content. It's very simple. Click, drag, and drop your content. From there, you have all the normal ways you typically move windows around on any desktop. So just like you're organizing your windows on your desktop, moving your Outlook window, your Chrome window around, it's exactly the same content. You can pull from the corner to shrink the size of your content and drag it back out. You can maximize, you can restore, and you can remove. I'll bring that content back up to demonstrate the other button that you see there, which is our snap button. Snap button is a way to fit your content within the virtual grid that's been created for you. Now, the virtual grid is configured on the back end and typically done by our implementation team, but it can be manipulated and changed if required so that the snap feature could become even more useful. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and click the snap button. And what you're going to see is this piece of content is going to fit to these 4 screens that you see here. So I'm going to go ahead and click snap. Let me just move that there. And you'll notice even if I drag this out a little bit and let go, it's going to continue to snap itself to this grid. It's only when I move it into a little smaller area that I'll snap itself to a smaller space. So if you ever want to fit it right in a cube, just get it pretty close. You can see here, I could just let it go and it will fit. From that point, it is snapped. So if I want to move it, it will continue to snap. And your navigation here is the upper left-hand corner. So wherever the upper left-hand corner is going to be is where it's going to snap. Dragging that out one more time, we'll snap to this 2x2 on the right-hand side. Unsnapping, simply click on it, and you're back to the freeform movement where you can size it at any shape or size you'd like. Also, one handy tip for removal, just besides that of your X in the upper right-hand corner, you can drag it off the virtual GUI and drop it, and you will also remove it as well. Any point in time, if this is too small, meaning the window is this big, you'll notice I've lost all my icons. You can right click and you'll have those same ones: snap, maximize, and remove. There are a few other ones that we can talk about, but if we have a couple more minutes before this is all over, and go through a couple of those. So I believe I did cover this in the last webcast, the use of the grid here in the chevron. So just bring that back really quick to show you the grid. And I go into more depth in our first webcast, which we do plan to publish for future consumption by you guys anytime you want at later dates. So within that grid, I can do more creative things. I can actually go out to this and use a different snap. In this case, it's a snap to grid. And you'll notice it'll fit to the grid. Going to go ahead back up there and clear the grid. Now, one little trick here as well. If you hold your shift key down prior to clicking on any one source, you'll notice it'll highlight, and I'm going to go ahead and click the shift all the way, keeping holding shift down, click on this last one. I'm still holding shift, do not let go of it, drag and drop, and let go. Once you do that, you'll notice that all this content drags up at the same time. So we'll actually get all this content up there, all four. So I multi-selected and was able to add all four at the same time. To easily distribute, in your actions menu, you'll have an option for tile sources, which you can set to any configuration you would like. So it looks like I got one extra one up there. So nope, it's organizing as we speak. Let's go back there and do that for you. Okay, so that's an easy way to add multiple things to, again, holding your shift key the whole time and dragging and dropping while the shift key is depressed. Manipulating or more content, again, adding more content here. Let's go back into our high res, dragging and dropping more content. So I'm going to go ahead and do a quick movement around with a snap. So I'm going to go ahead and resize these a little smaller. Let's go ahead and this is a handy trick as well. You get any time you got your source behind another source, you can double click it to bring it to the front. Right clicking also gives you that option of bring to front and send to back. So right click, send to back, which also bring that to front. So a couple options to move your content around while it's on there. So continuing, I'm going to go ahead and snap this one, and we're going to go ahead and snap this one right here and bring it to the top. So we do have some overlay, and they might have some unnecessary content behind this. So this is always an option if that is the case. You've noticed me going up to actions menu here quite a bit. So actions, and I use this button, clear current view screen. So I'll always remove. The other option there too is clear selected view screens. In this case, if I have content, which you see running over here, I can go ahead and click OK, and it's cleared my view screen too. Lastly, before we end our webcast, I do want to do a quick layout creation for you. And again, I did cover this in the previous webcast. So for a more detailed webcast or more detailed video, I would suggest you go back and take a look at that one. So let's build a quick one by adding a few content. Quickly get everything snapped into place. And that layout preset of everything you've arranged, click on this. You can overwrite, create a new one. Click OK to save it. And at any point in time, you can go back and reload it. It's brought back in the same exact arrangement that I saved it. All right, everybody, I do appreciate your time today. And again, we hope to continue to do this as we go on. Any future topics that you're interested in seeing, please reply to any of the invitations that you received for today's webcast, and you will be able to reply to that, making any suggestions you wish to have. Again, there's probably a lot of things that we're missing here, but you are, as the audience here, we do encourage you to do so that we get some better ideas of what we can offer you guys in future webcasts. Appreciate your time today, everybody, and thanks for stopping by.